My name is Rachel, and welcome to this episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about why you feel drained around everybody and what you can do to stop yourself from feeling drained after every social situation, after work, even after hanging around with your loved ones and family members. It's probably not because you're lazy, and it's probably not because you're introverted or you just don't want to see people. It's likely because you're operating with something called a sensitive nervous system. As Elaine Aron coined the term, sensory processing sensitivity. And this simply means that you have a greater depth of processing than most people. For in fact, 20% of the population are actually walking around right now with a greater depth of processing. And it's probably the people who are wondering why I'm always drained, why I'm always tired, why do I never want to socialize? And it's probably you guys that I'm speaking to that are operating with a sensitive nervous system. For me, this took me a while to understand. I was a school teacher for a long time and I was constantly interacting with parents, managing classes, helping students to learn, helping students to grow. And as I was doing this, I was absorbing every part of my students' emotions so that I would end up at the end of the day really, really tired and wondering why everyone else was seemingly able to go out and socialize and do the things they wanted to do, but I was absolutely knackered. And this really came down to the fact that I was a highly sensitive person and that I was operating from a sensitive nervous system. The thing is, lots of us go around our lives thinking, you know what, I'm just a sensitive person, or I'm just really tired, or I'm just lazy, or I don't really like socializing, that's just not me. When actually it's because our nervous system state has been operating at a different level to other people's. If you're someone who is a sensitive soul, highly sensitive person, or empath, you are likely someone who has a greater depth of processing. And when you have that greater depth of processing, you are scanning the world around you for danger more frequently. So you're acting from this hypervigilant state, okay? You're in this stress response where you're constantly scanning for threats. And of course, when you're constantly scanning for threats and you're constantly thinking that something bad is going to happen, of course you're going to feel more tired. Of course you're going to feel more overstimulated and drained. This triggers what is known as dorsal vagal shutdown. So if you're in this particular phase of the nervous system, according to polyvagal theory, you are operating from a space of, oh my goodness, I can't go on. I'm so exhausted. I just want to collapse. I don't want to do anything. And this might be why you sit at home on the sofa for 3 hours in the dark when you come back from work. And it's not because this is just you. It's because you have been operating from that state of hypervigilance. So then it's triggering a deep state of actually just wanting to do nothing. And this is your nervous system protecting you. However, the problem is when we don't learn to regulate ourselves so that we can step away from being a slave to our sensitivity and we can step into, actually, I'm using my sensitivity as a gift to help others, to help myself, and to align myself to a greater purpose. And this really is what we're going to be talking about in a minute. We're going to be talking about how you can start to shift from that, oh my goodness, oh, everything is too overwhelming, to actually, you know what, I can start to have a good handle on things. I can start to really embody that power for myself. So how I approach this is I do it through what is called my 3C technique. Okay. Now in my coaching and with my clients and in my programs, I teach this technique and we really go into detail about how we can personalize it for you, because I'm a big believer that you really do need to understand what things to do and when. And that only happens really with consistent guidance and support. Otherwise, we can just fall off the wagon and repeat those cycles and stay in that vicious cycle of constantly getting better for a moment and then collapsing back down into the state we were in before. But what I want to really talk about right now is the 3 C's. And these 3 C's are going to help you to start to not feel completely overwhelmed and drained by other people, and also not feel really drained and overwhelmed at the end of the day. So number one is consistency. Okay. This means consistency in building in micro practices into your day. I have worked with so many people who have said, yeah, but I tried breath work once and it didn't really do anything for me. Well, congratulations, you tried it once. Do you become a professional piano player by practicing the piano once? No. People need to realize that if you want to change, you're going to have to put in consistency and you're going to have to put in time. And eventually, what that does is it starts to rewire your nervous system and it starts to become habitual. And when we make these habits habitual, that's when the change starts to happen. It doesn't happen from a one off approach to that. And that's something I really go deeper with in my coaching, with my one-to-one clients and through my programs as well. So when we're thinking about that, it's building in micro practices and really understanding what micro practices are effective for you in what state you are going through as well, because they are not all created equal. Number 2, okay, is connection. Please, this is like the most one, they're all really important, but this is like really, really important. It's connection with your body. Okay. Your nervous system speaks through your body and your body speaks through your nervous system. Okay. If you are constantly feeling on edge and tired, you cannot simply say to yourself, oh, you know what, Rachel, stop being tired, stop being on edge. Because what that's going to do is, A, it's going to not be very compassionate towards yourself and you're not showing yourself self-love. And number 2, it's going to actually do nothing, because if your body is not believing what your mind wants to do, then it's not going to happen. There needs to be a stability and grounding within the body before the mind can follow. Otherwise, it's just noise. And I know there's lots of ways we can cognitively rewire our thoughts, but as someone who's been through this and someone who's guided clients through this, if you're not operating from a space of safety and groundedness and relaxation, you are not going to be able to do the deeper work. You're not going to be able to trust yourself. You're not going to be able to set boundaries. And you're just going to keep repeating that loop over and over again. So just some food for thought there. Number 3 is clarity. Okay. Get clear on who, what, where you want to spend your time. Because one of the things I see a lot within people I've worked with is they say yes. They're chronic people pleasers. They say yes to everything all the time because they don't want to upset or rock the boat. And that is a trauma response in itself. Probably we're going to save that for another video. But what we're doing here is we're actually bypassing our needs. We're not giving ourselves that time to really ground into ourselves and spend it with the people who matter. When you're saying yes to everyone, you're saying no to yourself. So really be selective with the people and things that you do, especially if you're someone who operates from a sensitive nervous system, because you do have that added caveat of actually I am going to feel more drained more easily. So that's why it's really essential that you do these practices and you follow these steps and you don't just take this advice and do it once. Okay, you really start to work with that. But when we work with these 3 things, we build up our window of tolerance, which is all about capacity. And that means that we can gradually start to increase how much we do, and we'll gradually start to see that we can do more, we can socialize more with less negative outcomes. Remember that around 20% of the population do actually have a sensitive nervous system. So if you're someone who's operating with that, welcome to the club. I am so glad you took the time to listen to this video, and I will be sharing more videos on nervous system support, really healthy, wholesome, body-based practices for you in the coming weeks. Please like, follow, and subscribe to this channel. And if you fancy it, please sign up to my newsletter, because I'll be releasing some new programs and some brand new freebies for you in the coming weeks.